What is up, Gato Squad? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Elias, and if you enjoy daily car content, consider subscribing. So today I want to talk to you guys about the 5 things that will break on your BMW 335D. Now I know I've said a lot of good things about the car, and I really do love the car, but no matter how good a car is, there's always going to be a few faults here and there. You know, for example, the Type R currently has a transmission issue I was talking to you guys about. The S2000 has its fault. You know, the soft top has issues, and a couple of things on the engine need to be replaced. A VTEC valve seal from off the top of my head. The Honda Prelude has a leaky power steering pump. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Every car has its faults, so I'm going to go over this car's faults in this video. I hope you guys enjoy. So before we get started on the 5 things that will go wrong with your BMW 335D, I do want to be specific here. It is specifically to this car. So I'm not sure if you guys know, but the 335D is actually pretty different than the other 3 Series vehicles sold in America. And mainly it has to do with the fact that it's a completely different engine, and it's a different fuel system and a different emission system that are in play within this car. So before we go ahead and get started, I'm going to go ahead and fill up with diesel, and I want to show you guys what my miles per gallon has been on this awesome car so far. Alright, we just finished up here, so we got 13.1 gallons, and we've got 430 miles. That gives us roughly 33 to 34 miles to the gallon. I think that's an excellent number, considering it's been a lot of local driving. You know, it's very mixed, highway and local, so pretty good. All right, let's continue. All right, so 34 miles to the gallon. I think that's an excellent number, especially for the amount of driving I've been doing locally. And you know, I don't necessarily drive this thing very gingerly, so I think it's pretty impressive. Obviously, way more impressive than the Civic Type R. And even the Sport hatchback that I used to own, the Sport hatchback used to give me around 33 miles to the gallon on the highway, 28, 29 in the city. So this has better gas mileage than the Civic hatchbacks. That's impressive. So anyway, with that said, let's get into the 5 things that will break on your BMW 335D. So the first thing I want to mention is the first thing that happened to me right after I bought the car. So in case you guys don't know, I bought this car used back in 2014, 2015, I want to say. It was 2014 that I bought this car, so it's been 3 years. And about 2 months after I bought it, it started giving me a whole bunch of codes, just randomly throwing codes, going nuts. I'm like, what's going on with this thing? It's throwing me all these random codes. I'm able to read them. I had a code reader. It was basically a whole bunch of misfires and bank error issues, and it was kind of random. I'm like, I don't know what these have to do with each other, but I think I definitely need to go check them out at the BMW dealership, because it wasn't really giving me that many symptoms. Little did I know. So when BMW went in and started diagnosing these, they knew a little bit about the 335Ds, and they actually looked into it, and it was caked in carbon. Now, if you don't know what carbon buildup is, it's actually something that's starting to plague a lot of gasoline engine cars. But in diesel cars, it's been plaguing them for a long time, and it has to do with the fact that diesel engines have been direct injection for a very, very long time, and gasoline engines have only been direct injection as of recently. What that does is it directly injects the fuel right into the cylinder and bypasses the valves. But the thing is, with direct injection, the fuel that's usually used to clean off the valves is not being used to clean off the valves anymore, because it doesn't even hit the valves as it's directly injected. Now, one of the main issues that comes up with the 335Ds, especially in the US, is the emission systems. And now the emission systems are way more strict in the US than they are in Europe, and a lot of these systems are causing a lot more carbon buildup than they do in Europe. So one of the systems that is pretty terrible in the US, and it's tuned pretty terribly in my opinion, is the EGR system. The EGR system, the exhaust gas recirculation system. It basically takes exhaust gas from the engine exhaust, puts it right back into the engine. Basically very dirty, sooty air, and it uses it to kind of clean up its emissions, but it dirties up all the valves, it dirties up all the intake runners. It's pretty terrible. So, you know, after some back and forth with BMW, they gave me a loaner. It was a BMW X1. It was actually my first car review ever. I reviewed that BMW X1 loaner. That was when this car was into the shop for that repair. So they basically replaced a whole bunch of parts. It was going to cost me $4,000, but BMW paid for it as a goodwill repair. Even though I had a CPO warranty and everything, they actually had it covered under their own thing, as they say, it's a maintenance item now. So that's something to keep in mind. Even if you have a 335i, it's the same kind of issue. You guys get a lot of carbon buildup as well, and that's something you definitely need to keep in mind if you have one of these 3 Series. So the next thing that goes wrong with these cars, and it goes wrong pretty much every car that I've seen online, is the Scr system. Now the Scr system is the system that BMW implemented into the US cars in order to meet CARB regulations on emissions. So what it does is it puts in a urea injection system, and if you're not familiar with what a urea injection system is, it's basically a system that injects, I think it's either cow piss or horse piss, or I don't know what kind of urea it is. I don't know how they get it, but they inject it into the exhaust as it's leaving. So there's a whole system that meters out exactly how much urea it's getting injected into the exhaust, depending on the throttle position and oxygen sensor. It's a pretty complex system, so as you'd expect, there's a lot of issues with it. One of the main issues is that the Scr injectors themselves get crystallized, and they get clogged, and they stop working. This crystallization actually happens throughout the entire Scr system. So the tanks get all gummed up with that fluid. Everything gets pretty much gummed up, and you basically eventually have to replace the whole system. And it's not inexpensive to do so. So another thing that happens is these sensors in the Scr system go bad a lot. But these sensors are all built into the system's tanks, into the system's pumps. So in order to replace a sensor, you have to replace basically the whole system. That leaves you with a humongous repair bill for these 335Ds, and it's pretty annoying to have. The third thing that goes wrong in these 335Ds, and it's only starting to happen more recently as these cars age, is the Dpf. Now, if you don't know what a Dpf is, it's the diesel particulate filter, and pretty much any diesel car after 2005 in the US has a Dpf, and what it does, it captures all these particulates from diesel exhaust that would come out of the back as soot, that black soot. I don't know if you remember back in the 90s and 80s. I wasn't around in the 80s, but back in the 90s, if you lived in a busy street, you could run your hand on your porch and you'd come out with black soot. And that's due to the fact that everything was just spitting out soot like crazy, especially industry. So I was near a power plant, and that thing was just bellowing out smoke. And that's part of the reason why the EPA and CARB devised these plans to do Dpf filters. Now the problem with Dpfs is, especially in the 335D, I don't think they built a very efficient Dpf, because after about 100,000 miles, they just don't work anymore. Now the way the engine actually accounts for the Dpf efficiency is by burning off all the particulates inside of it every once in a while. So you'll see your miles to the gallon plunge as the engine management system shoots a whole bunch of extra diesel into the engine so that it gets to the Dpf and cleans it out by burning off all that extra soot. Now, if you think about that, it seems kind of counterintuitive. So you're capturing all that soot, but then you're burning it off anyway. Yeah, it might be a little bit better, but it kind of seems, I don't know, it kind of seems like you're fixing one thing and messing up something else. I don't know. So it is what it is, and the Dpf filter is one of the things that always is going to break on pretty much any diesel car. It's almost considered a maintenance item at that point. It's like a catalytic converter for a car, and it'll cost you around $3,000 to $4,000 to get it replaced. Now, I'm not sure if there's any aftermarket cheaper versions, but from what I've seen, it's a very expensive part, and then you got to put it in there at the $600-700 labor cost at least. So that's the other thing that'll go wrong with it. The fourth thing that'll go wrong with your BMW 335D is the harmonic balancer. Now, I've been talking about this harmonic balancer for a while now. It's because it's the last thing that I have not dealt with in this car. It still has the stock harmonic balancer. Now, I know there's a few aftermarket options out there, namely from AAR Rodriguez, I believe is what his name is, or fixmyvw.com or something like that. He's an avid 335D member. He's a really good guy. He's a good mechanic, and I think he's made a custom harmonic balancer. So what happens is that since BMW engines are very, very kind of rough and they vibrate a lot, and it's just the nature of diesel engines, BMW wanted to kind of make them smoother and kind of smooth out the vibrations, because BMW at the end of the day is kind of a premium car brand. So they put in this kind of rubber harmonic balancer to help out the vibrations, help dampen the vibrations. And while that does help, the rubber, I'm not sure why, but it's terribly designed where the rubber will crack, spit, and it will actually completely stop working after a while. And what happens when that goes wrong is you lose power steering, you lose your alternator, so you don't have a battery charging anymore. You're basically left stranded on the side of the road. So that's definitely something you need to keep in mind if you own a BMW 335D. I'm not sure. I don't think this same thing happens in the 335Is. They have different harmonic balancers, but 335D harmonic balancer is something that I definitely need to be taking a look at. It's not that expensive, fortunately. It'll probably cost you, the whole repair will probably cost you between $500 and $700. Not that it's cheap, but all things considered, I think that's not too bad overall. Now, the last thing that'll go wrong with the 335D, and this is actually something that'll go wrong in pretty much any 3 Series, and that's the AC blower motor, the air conditioning blower motor, and that's inside the dash. And every once in a while, that fan actually, I think, corrodes, or I don't know why it's designed this way, but it'll corrode and it'll rust and it'll seize. And you'll turn on the AC one day and you hear it kind of crackling, and then eventually it'll stop working. So what you got to do is you got to basically order the fan, and there's a resistor that you have to buy as well. The whole repair costs you around, again, $500. So when all said and done, all these repairs can be pretty costly. However, there is a couple of ways that you can get away with fixing all these, basically permanently. And what I'll say about that is, all you need to do is call the ABC delete. Look it up on the internet. It's very, very popular. BPC Tuning does it for racing applications only. And what they do is, or what you can do is, you can take it to a mechanic, you can remove all the problematic parts, tune the ECU, get a whole bunch of extra power, and basically have an awesome, reliable running diesel powerhouse of a BMW. And that fixes 1 through 4 of the 5 problems that happens. The 5th problem, the blower motor, that's something that basically every 3 Series owner has to deal with. 3 Series E90 owner has to deal with, and that's okay. It comes with the territory. All things considered, I think that's pretty good. So I've taken care of almost all those things. The harmonic balancer is the last thing I got to take care of, and I will be taking care of that very soon. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it myself or I'm going to get somebody else to do it. Anyway, so as I was saying, this car is great. I love everything about it, but you do need to keep in mind those things so you can fix them before they break. Alright guys, so that pretty much wraps it up here. Thanks for watching as always. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.